So namaste, welcome to Satsang. So could I just ask you to make sure that you keep yourself muted during the satsang? There's been a couple of people just accidentally unmuting themselves, so just to double check. Thank you. So I wanted to speak about something this evening that I get a lot of questions about. And it's really what it is actually like in a day-to-day, everyday way. What is it actually like to be free of mind? What is it actually like to go through life situations, and really just to try to dispel some myths that we may have about the awakened way of being, and maybe to come to a realization that it's a lot more accessible than we might believe at the current time. There is some misunderstandings about what it is like to live in a spontaneous, effortless, awakened way, where there is just the silence of your being that is continuous and effortlessly present in the foreground of your experience. And it's good to clear up what those myths are really, so that we're not heading towards the wrong thing or trying to head towards something that isn't really awakening. Because in my own pathway and in many beings that I come across, I wasted a lot of time trying to completely clear out all thoughts, trying to completely clear out all negative emotions. And it's like an endless task, that it's really much easier to focus on the main aspect of awakening, which is an authenticity. Whatever is happening in your experience as an awakened being, there's an authenticity to it, meaning there is a total lack of any trying to avoid anything at all. Now, for some, that may sound a little scary, that if I feel something really, really good, I'm going to not resist that at all. But also if I feel something really, really bad, then I'm not going to resist that either. It's a total intimacy with your experience in this moment, just like this moment, this formless reality is what we are, the silence of our being. And it isn't in opposition with what's happening inside it, is it? It's not. The silence of our being is not saying this should or should not be. It's not trying to change anything. It's an absolute intimacy with what is. And it's not trying to control or manipulate. And that is the essence of a deeply awakened state that I would be looking for in someone. Are they trying to avoid any part of their experience? Are they preferring one experience or another? What does this really mean in everyday situations? What does it mean for us in our awakening? Well, it doesn't necessarily mean the absence of any thoughts completely, or the absence of negative emotions totally. It does mean that those states, if they come, are not suffered through, because they are not resisted at all. It's pushing against whatever's arising in this moment, whether it's something inside us, in our body-mind vehicle, or whether it's something in our outer world that we're pushing against. The effect is the same. The effect is that we begin to suffer. So there is already within us the ground of our being that is the real essence of what we are, and that has no ability and no inclination to push against anything. There is a meeting of this moment exactly as it is, an authenticity to it. Whatever is. And included in this moment is usually at first some aspect of our being that is in resistance to this moment. So there is our mind that it really has a lot of opinions about ourselves, our world, our spiritual progress, or its opinions about a lack of. And there's also this quiet, silent aspect of our being that just is, and is totally an acceptance of our mind and its opinions, and any or all negative emotions or positive emotions. It's not trying to sift and sort through our experience, and it's not trying to get rid of anything or get more of something. And it's also not trying to get rid of that part of us that is sifting and sorting, preferring, wanting, needing. It's completely intimately allowing what is. If the body and mind are in a very contracted state of pain, it's allowing that completely. If the body and mind are feeling bliss and joy and a deep, deep peace and silence, it's allowing that totally as well. So the awakened state really starts with continuous, effortless authenticity with what is in this moment. It's not the everything comes up roses and I never have any difficult situations in my life ever again that we perhaps dream awakening may be. It's not the, okay, now from this point forward, I'm never going to feel anything other than peace, love, and joy, and I'm not going to feel any negative emotion. It will develop more and more into that. The negative states, the difficult situations in your life will diminish and diminish and diminish, and the positive states and the situations going the way that you want them to will increase as you practice this authenticity. But that's not how it starts. How it starts is being willing to be 100% present in your life, however it is right now. And that is what that's going to look like. We don't know in this moment. We have no idea. Right now it looks like this, doesn't it? It looks like this moment we're having together. So can you recognize that there's some part of you that's already authentic and present? Authentic not meaning correct or, just more real. It's just that part of you which is not trying to manipulate anything right now. It just is. And there may also be in this moment present a part of you that is trying to manipulate and change. And the silence of our being is totally, totally allowing that to occur, isn't it? It's never once tried to stop or change or reject what is. It's not capable of that. And that's what I mean by authenticity. It shows up 100% of the time completely in and as this moment and everything that's appearing in it. And just to notice that there is already that aspect of you that's doing this is going to begin to revolutionize the way you live your life, because what it means to be the authentic self is to be present completely, whether you're having the best human moment you could ever imagine ever, or the worst human moment you could ever imagine, or whether you're having this moment where you feel absolutely insubstantial and formless and beyond all form completely. And authenticity is showing up completely for all of those moments, whatever you feel like right now. Do you feel like somebody, or do you feel like nobody, nothing at all? Or are you swinging back and forth between those? And can you be authentically present to whatever this moment is presenting to you? Can you be authentically here? It doesn't mean eliminating resistance or mind or our egoic sense of self. It means authentically, completely allowing those to be. The awakened state is much simpler, perhaps, than we'd realized. It's a practicing of this authenticity, that whatever I am in this moment, I am my formless nature, the silence, the ground of my being that isn't anything yet. And I'm also appearing as this human being with this very human experience in this moment. And I'm not going to try to decide which one of those is more real, more valid. I'm not going to try to decide which one of those is more important. If I'm called into my human existence in some very real way, there's something that really has to be dealt with, I'm going to be 100% present there in that moment. I'm not trying to avoid any aspect of it, even if it's unpleasant. And when I'm experiencing some deeper moment where I feel completely beyond the body, beyond anything, untouchable by anything outside of time and space, I'm not going to say either that that's more real than what I had the moment before, what I was experiencing. This is the essence of authenticity completely. When we practice this, I'm going to be whatever I am in this moment. And if I'm feeling something unpleasant in my mind, my body, I can allow that to be. I can also allow a desire that's probably present for the situation to change as well. I can allow that. I'd like to feel better. And at any moment, there is always this formless ground of being that's present, in which it's not rejecting anything. So which are you then? Are you this human being, or are you this formless, infinite, vast, expansive being? Or can you really not say in the end, which is, they seem to be opposites. They seem to be someone somewhere in time and space, and nothingness everywhere outside of time and space. And can you honor and respect whatever mood your consciousness is experiencing, whether it wants to deeply, deeply dive into its formless aspect? Or is it today really rather interested in this negative emotion and why it keeps persisting, or why this situation keeps happening in our life? There's a authenticity there, isn't there, where there's a letting go or a surrendering of trying to experience one thing over the other. Naturally, then, we'll experience our human life happening in front of us in a very real way, becoming more and more pleasant, becoming less and less difficult, flowing more and more effortlessly, things coming that we want and need more and more effortlessly, greater amounts of joy and peace, an ability to love that seems to be ever increasing. And always, always, all of that is happening inside this utter, utter silence that you are. And eventually you won't want to distinguish between those. You won't want to even prefer that silence over anything that we can experience with a mind and a body. And eventually it'll be seen that they are the same one being. You can experience yourself as nothingness, or everything, or someone, somewhere. Which one of those is most real? Do you even want to go there? Do you even want to define which is most real? Of course, when we dive into our formless aspect, it feels best in our mind and body because we enjoy that deeply. But the same enjoyment of our human existence can happen as well if we're not pushing against this moment. Can you be this moment and also the someone appearing inside it? Is this sense of someone just a mistake that's supposed to disappear, a cosmic error, or is it something that you can really begin to enjoy and perhaps understand and perhaps navigate your human existence consciously for the first time and begin to really enjoy it? So it comes back to this word, whether we call it self-respect or authenticity. I respect however myself is showing up right now. That there is a utter silence and quietness and rest deep inside the core of our being when we are not resisting anything, when we're not pushing or running away from something. And really the only thing that most of us have to really master in this Satsang environment now is to not run away from our old separate sense of self. Most of us have had some level of seeing of what we ultimately are, this formless reality that's appearing as a human being. And then we're desperately rejecting everything that it means to be a human being. But this formless reality that you are decided to show up also as that human body, this human body. And that is something magnificent, isn't it? That you are also appearing as you, individual, unique, not separate, but unique and individual. Never again to be repeated as you are right now with your gifts and talents that you bring to the world. Never again will reality show up in just the same way as it has as you, as your human beingness. And never again will it have the chance to recognize itself through your individual expression in this lifetime. So can you be someone and nobody at the same time? Absolutely. There is a resting place where you don't really prefer either of those, where you don't really need to get rid of one and keep the other. There's a place where they both are not really both. They are the same. I am the one being that is everywhere, insubstantial and intangible and invisible. And I'm also appearing as this visible human being. And all that entails, my relationships, my finances, my career, my awakening, my family, my interests, my passions, my desires, all of that. And the self is almost aching to just fully show up as you, to really be whatever you are right now, without any restriction at all, without any holding back at all, trusting that whatever expresses itself from that place of authenticity, from that place before division, where you don't know whether you're someone or nobody, somebody or nothing. that the expression, the self-expression from there will be 100% appropriate and joyful. So in a very real, practical way, it's just how much am I showing up in this moment? If I'm confused by this satsang, I can really be confused. If I'm angry, I can be angry. If I'm happy, I can be happy. If I'm deeply, deeply peaceful and haven't heard a single word, I can be that too. If I'm trying to figure out and compare myself to everyone else, I can do that too. What is your life like as a human being when you take on the qualities of the self, where the self in its intangible, formless aspect never ever says should not or should about itself or anything? Can you give yourself permission to be 100% you? And if not, why not? What is it that seems to be holding you back? And is it holding back this silence? Is this great silence of being affected by anything at all? And can you allow more of that to permeate your mind and your body? We are so busy as human beings trying to be something other than we are. And we've been doing it for so long. Somewhere back a long time ago, we got this message that who we are is not appropriate, not adequate, not who we're supposed to be. And we've lived with that lie forever. And I'd just like to invite you into what it feels like in this moment to just let go of that. Whatever you are in this moment, we can be that completely. With no idea for a moment that you should be anything other than you are right now. What does it feel like when you let go of defining yourself as even nothing or someone or something? And there is space inside your being for your someoneness and your nothingness that you can allow to fully be present together, because they're not really two. So what will that authenticity look like? We've got absolutely no idea. But whatever it is, in the next moments, we will be it completely. And there's an utter, utter freedom in that when you really grasp that simplicity. Yes, awakened beings tend to end up with a quiet mind and tend to end up with only positive emotions eventually. But that is because they've been utterly authentic to whatever they're feeling for so long that anything that needs to come up and work itself out has done that. And for the rest of their human existence, anything that is triggered is immediately allowed, looked at, loved, dissolved, and seen. Somewhere in our consciousness, we have had this myth that to be authentic, to be who we really are, at least in our human expression, is really, really unsafe. And that we need to be this chameleon, this social chameleon that's changing shape depending on who we're talking to try to fit in, to feel safe, to feel loved and approved of, and to feel complete. And that is never ever going to work, ever. Not permanently anyway. And it is exhausting. And what happens when you set that aside and don't decide whether you need to be nothing or someone? Can you just enjoy both? Peace comes from the absence of resistance to what is. Even if what is some resistance, we can completely, totally, utterly allow it to be. Give whatever exists in this moment permission to exist. Just like the silence, we can be like that silence and be utterly, utterly at peace, no matter what our body and mind are feeling. It's a very simple thing that I'm saying. When you grasp it, it's easy to implement. Just a little bit more each day, longer and longer periods spent being whatever you are in that moment. And eventually just becomes continuous and effortless. And then you forget how to be inauthentic. Whatever that means, it feels a little risky for our mind. I don't know what I'm going to say in the next moment. I don't know how I'm going to be in the next moment, but I know I'll feel peaceful while it's happening. I know I'll feel deeply at home inside my being, deeply authentic, with a deep confidence and self-respect that comes from no longer denying who you really are in its human aspect too. Okay. So I spoke there for a little bit longer than I wanted to, but sometimes I end up going off on a tangent. So if anyone would like to, I have a couple of questions. Well, I've got 4 questions here. I'll see how many I can get through. I'll try to get through a couple today that have been emailed in, and we'll do 2 more on Monday's Satsang as well. So I'll take up to 4 questions here tonight online. If you want to ask a question or share something about your awakening or about what I've said this evening or any aspect of realizing your real nature, then if you want to raise your hand, feel free to do so. So I'll take up to another 3. I'll go through these 2 questions first that we have here. First one says, hello, Helen. Many thanks for your satsangs. I live with my elderly mother, 82, who has a narcissistic personality disorder of the covert variety. I only became aware of this 3 years ago, soon after I had moved from the country I was living in to be with her. There was a significant shock and grieving process to go through when I discovered this. Therapists refer to what I am experiencing with my mother as soul murder, and certainly it has felt and does feel like that. Since no one wants anything to do with her, I am subject to the load alone. On top of it, I've always been her scapegoat, and it seems to be getting much worse as her physical and mental health deteriorates. Through it all, a lot has been learned about myself, why I have been the way I have been, the dynamics of my relationships, and the experiences I've had in my life. So cutting to the chase, one of the things you have illuminated in your satsangs is that one undergoes the same experiences repeatedly when one believes something that is true about herself. For me, this has been the ubiquitous I am a bad person, I'm not worthy, etc. Given that I know this now, and not just in my head, why am I continuing to have the same excruciating abusive experiences with my mother? In all fairness, it is lessening in intensity for me, but the frequency of abuse is increasing. It's like an extinction crisis for her or something. Nevertheless, I'm deeply challenged multiple times daily to reside in my unchanging, peaceful, happy, and still essence. My body feels very heavy, of all sorts of weird ailments manifesting that I have never experienced before. And even though I know who I really am, I still feel an enormous sadness that seems to be crusting into some sort of foundation. When the pain is significant, I have a sense of unreality, that this can't really be happening. It all seems to be a dream, but not in the other awakened way. Sorry for the verbosity, but the crux of my question is, why am I having repeat experiences with my mother when I know I am not a bad, worthless individual with gratitude? So if there's a situation in our life that isn't improving, even though we've been looking at a particular belief, if it's getting more frequent, as you mentioned here, and there is still some large amount of negative emotion, it's always because either we haven't looked deeply enough at the belief that we're looking at, or we haven't really isolated the real belief. And for me, what's significant in what you've said is this sadness, this sense of sadness. If you may have done some work on this I am bad belief and this unworthiness, that somehow this is some idea that I need to be punished because I'm not adequate. But this sadness is telling you something, isn't it? It's asking you to look at it, because the outer reflection and the inner emotion are the same one thing. This sadness is, if you take this sadness and really ask it what it wants to tell you, leaving aside for the moment what you seem to be sad about and just setting your sight on the sadness. And what is the message behind this sadness? What does it want to tell you? What does it really, sadness is really some kind of deep-seated feeling that I can't be happy. There's no point in trying. There's nothing I can do, or some sense that I've lost what I need to be happy, that it's hopeless, that there's no point. If you really sit with this sadness and examine it, that will tell you the real belief or story or attitude that's still to be discovered, that's sustaining this. Sometimes with a big pattern like this, there's 2 or 3 beliefs behind it. And I'd really suggest that you look at this and sit with the sadness. Mind will say, I'm sad because I'm in this situation. But really, there's sadness, and this situation is a reflection of it. So if you can begin to really look at the sadness and see what it wants to tell you, and then when you find the story underneath the sadness, that the sadness is a symptom of, you'll be able to begin to push against, to question and push against this belief, so you don't have to keep having the same experiences. It's possible to go through even this situation without suffering. It's possible to be completely peaceful all the time, even in this situation. And you may never choose to be in this situation, but it needs to be said, you do not need to suffer through this once you've found the right belief. And if you're still suffering, it's because you haven't found the right belief and gone deep enough into it. When you found the right belief, the negative emotion will lessen and eventually disappear, and the situation will begin to change in the reflection. Something will happen to lessen the load. Okay. So we'll just take one more, and then I'll go to Sophie's question afterwards. This first question says, I have anxieties around relationships as I fear loss and therefore have fears around doing or saying the wrong thing. I'm currently seeing a therapist who in some ways works in a similar way you do, but does not take non-duality into consideration. She is currently encouraging me to change my patterns and put boundaries into place early on in a relationship. This brings up a massive amount of fear as I'm scared of the answer. Additionally, it triggers physical pain. I have conflicting ideas between therapy and what we do here. By enforcing boundaries, am I really just trying to clean the mirror? Can you please give me some insight into this, along with changing patterns and boundaries? So only you know what's right for you in this moment. And I would suggest that if what you're doing currently is making it worse, triggering more fear and more physical pain in this situation, then I suggest maybe that you need to change how you're approaching this. Just trying to change your actions when you haven't really changed, questioned the deep-seated belief underneath it is going to be largely ineffective anyway, because we're still working from this false premise. Here you've mentioned fear, and fear is saying, I'm not safe, I'm in danger. So if I take some action from that same belief, it's not going to have the resolution that I want to. I can't say whether therapy is right for you or not right now. I have done it in the past and it's been enormously helpful. It's helped me unravel aspects of my personal self that was all, sort of knotted up as they can be. But you know better than anyone whether it's right for you right now or not. And even if it is right for you right now, it also needs to be, you need to look at whether what steps you're taking is actually helping or is it making it worse. That would be my advice with that. From what you've said here, I feel that it's not really helping you right now, the tactic. I'm not saying the therapy is not helping, but it's easier to question this idea that you're not safe first, to come to the deep, deep seeing that you are safe and always have been. And then naturally boundaries and things like that it's going to be easier to put those in place from a deep-seated confidence that, yes, I'd like to be with this person, but I'm not going to be diminished if they leave or if I lose them for some reason. So I hope that is helpful for that. It's not something I can give an absolute answer to, but I hope that guides you in the right direction where to go with it. Okay, so we'll go to Sophie's question whenever you're ready, Sophie.
Namaste.
Hi, how you doing?
Hi, I'm okay, thanks. Just a reflection about I was sitting with the belief that life isn't fair, and the anger that came from that is massive. It's like the two go together, the belief life isn't fair and then the kind of emotional anger around that.
Yeah, they are the same thing. One showing up mentally, the other showing up emotionally, and it'll also be showing up physically as some situation in your life as well. It's always those three components: a mental, and emotional, and physical aspect of something like that.
Yeah. So really, like you say, seeing that belief and being the peace at the same time, or the space at the same time, and questioning whether it's true, and coming to seeing that it's just a belief, but there wasn't any real conviction that it's not true, because it hasn't been seen deep enough that life is fair on another level that I'm not necessarily aware of, because on the surface it seems very much like it isn't.
Can you hear us, Sophie? I think we've lost you.
But saw that by resting more in the peace of it.
Could you just repeat what you said before? We lost you for a minute. Sorry. Just go back a little bit for me.
About what I can't remember.
You were saying that there seems to be plenty of evidence that life isn't fair, and then we lost you for a moment.
Okay, so like changing the belief, you just said about finding the right belief. So the right belief that it is fair, but that's not a deep seeing yet, because that comes from that openness of seeing, that awakened openness of seeing that on another level life is totally fair, and I don't need to try and manipulate life in order to make fairness happen. I don't need to do that. It's doing it itself. But there isn't that depth of knowing that. But even so, just staying in that spacious knowing that I'm just holding on to a belief, and that belief is causing the anger and the contraction. But then what happened just now was there was this kind of absence of that belief for a moment. And then I saw how this, because I was questioning, well, who's believing this? Who is believing this? Suddenly I saw there wasn't a me here at all to believe it. But then I saw myself actually create a me. In the next moment, I created a me, I confront, to sort of continue the manipulation. Because now there's a me here who can continue believing this and has some kind of investment in that, or even though it's leading to sort of suffering. So there was this kind of and this is, I think, what we assume awakened people no longer do. They no longer have that manipulative aspect that is appearing as a me, that is saying, right, life is not fair, I've got to try and get fairness, or I've got to try and make life work for me somehow, which is the kind of trickiness of the human experience, and it creates so much pain for ourselves doing that. And that by not doing that, by not manipulating life, then there's more, well, then there's peace, then there's an awakened state. I that in my understanding.
The intermediary between that, the middle step, is perhaps most important, which is I'm going to be authentically present to this aspect of me that still wants to carry this on. I'm going to watch it, observe it. I'm not going to judge it. Some part of me is still invested in suffering, still wants to kind of keep this going. And I can watch that, I can notice that without judging it, because that's what the authentic self does. It just observes. It can't really judge in that way, can it? It's just, oh, look, some part of my being is still bringing this story back and wanting to experience it again. And just watching that, why is it so convinced this belief is important? Why does this person keep being reformed into this someone believing this? And it's really because of force of habit, sheer habit. I've been doing this for a very long time, and the evidence that this separate being has for the fact that life is unfair is all my previous experiences that I've had that prove it's not fair. It's never going to go my way, and all those kind of things. So just watching this egoic sense of self take the shape of this belief and not judging it is the middle step. That's the awakened state right there. Right? That it's not when this person has completely gone. It's when I'm being authentic with whatever is appearing, even if it is a person shape happening inside me. And I'm not going to judge it and say it should not be occurring. It feels nicer, it feels freer, it feels better when it's not happening. But we don't need to say it should not be this way. I prefer it when it doesn't, but I'm not going to push against it. See the difference? I'm just watching this egoic sense of self form and do what it does, watching this pattern play out. And then it will just, as you watch it and watch it, it will just fall away on its own. Then at some point, it just won't happen anymore.
Is that because it's seen what it's doing? So as I formed the self again to reattach that belief, if I can really see that, oh, hang on a minute, that is just creating that kind of contraction and anger, and it's just generating that, fueling that, which is just ultimately ridiculously painful.
What's painful is not the shape and the belief, it's the judging of it. When this happens, some sense of ego arises inside with the story. Most of us go into opposition with it. This should not be happening. This is not what the awakened state is, says some part of us. The awakened state is just watching it without judgment. So as you watch it without judgment, doing its thing, creating its drama, doing the thing it does, the ego does so well that, as the more you watch it, the more you're taking your energy and your investment out of it. It's only persisting because we're pushing against it. It really doesn't matter to the silence what the ego is doing at all. It really doesn't matter to the silence what the ego is doing at all. It's only ego that's saying, ego shouldn't be doing this now. The silence is like, it's fine. Whatever you want to do is fine. Not that it's cold, it just doesn't care in that way, does it? You want to take that shape, have at it. It's kind of saying. So when you take that attitude too, that I can watch this happen, but I don't have to identify with it. I can just watch it. Some part of me wants to make a big deal out of this thing that's just happened, but also really I don't want to. More and more I'm just sitting here watching. Then you're disempowering it, you're taking the life out of it, and it's going to just stop by itself. Yeah. Can you get a sense of this halfway stage? You're never going to successfully get ego to stop doing that until you just observe and watch it, and then it'll stop taking that shape by itself. Because it's not getting any interest, it's not getting any attention from you. It's just an old habit that runs out of steam. Good.
Yes, good. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Hope that helps.
Yeah.
Okay. Would anyone else like to ask a question? We've got time for one or two more. If not, I will read this next question I have here. Okay, we have two. So Colleen, I think you were first. It was almost a dead heat then. Who was first? We'll go with Colleen. You're muted still, Colleen. Can you? There we go.
Hi, Helen.
Hi. How are you doing? Nice to meet you.
Oh, I found you recently. I'm in California, but all my ancestors are from over there somewhere.
Lovely.
So my question is like, I just love your simplicity, and I guess for me, when I started becoming aware, it's like everything just all the things that I love to do, the passions, all that stuff just started disappearing, just dissolving. Yeah. And the more that I say I want freedom no matter what, stuff is being removed from my life. The last thing is my husband left 7 months ago and went and cheated on me. And so, you know, it's hard. I guess what I'm asking is how can you, I'm grateful. I wouldn't have it any other way,
Yeah.
truthfully. But it's like you have to balance the fear of what's going next with the gratitude. You
Yeah.
know, like right now I'm trying to stay in my house, and I'm an artist, and I'm going, okay, universe, how am I gonna stay here with my 4 dogs, you know, and going, thank you at the same time. And it's just, I don't know, sometimes it's, and then when I hear spiritual teachers, you know, talk about stuff, a lot of times they say things like, I lost everything, all my money, everything, it was all gone. And it's just like, oh shit, you know.
What awakening, but I'm not actually so sure right now, actually. Can I think about it a little bit more? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so I guess it's not really a question. It's just, I guess I would like to hear more from teachers talk about how their life came back together when they woke up,
Yeah.
rather than all the crap they lost.
It doesn't always have to be like that either. You know, the one thing that I wish I'd known sooner was my life will have to fall apart to the extent that I'm not aware of what ideas I'm still holding on to. The more that we've seen what we really are, that formless silent space, a being that doesn't have any ideas about anything, and then we are still living from certain ideas within our human life. It's the areas where we're really not willing to see what we're still believing is where life has to show us in a very physical way, as you've described. And for me, the real change was when I really began to understand that process and really began to look for, what is it that I don't want to see? What am I still believing? Let me be proactive about this, rather than just stumbling from one life disaster to another, which are very great at teaching you, like you said, but you know, it doesn't always have to be this utter turning your life upside down disaster. And when I really began to engage with, like, what am I believing here? Any area of my life that's getting worse, the more I wake up, there must be some belief that's really more and more out of alignment with what I know myself to be now. You know, it's not even a moment of seeing, clear seeing, is going to shift your identity more and more to knowing you are that. And so these beliefs that we're still living within our human life are going to be less and less appetizing. They're going to be less and less palatable, and they'll show up. They'll stick right out in our life. So you can take a stock of your life and go, which areas of my life are really not working, or where do I really seem to need something? You know, you've already mentioned some things already. Or where am I feeling some strong negative emotion on a regular basis? And what's the story behind this? It only needs to blow up physically if we're not willing to see it emotionally and mentally, the deep-seated belief.
Yeah, that basically that you're not worthy. You know,
Yeah, and
that's
that's the big one.
always the bottom line for me.
Yeah, I'm not safe, and I'm not good enough, and I can't get what I want. Usually, most of us have all of those three to some degree, because those are very familiar, you know, and everyone is dealing with those. In the situation you mentioned, wanting to stay in your house, it's probably I'm not safe, and also I can't get what I want, which is to stay here and to experience this freedom and enjoy my art and my dogs and everything, you know. So you can either find it from the emotion. What is the emotion that I feel? What's the story behind that? Or what do I seem to need here, and why do I need it? So if I seem to need more money, how will I feel when I have more money? Will I feel more secure? Well, if I'm looking for security, it's because I feel unsafe. I feel insecure. So you can trace it back from what's happening in your life. And it doesn't have to keep happening in a very physical way.
Yeah.
Does that
Thank
help?
you. It totally helps. I feel like the minute I started saying I want freedom no matter what, this whole process, there's something has accelerated.
Yeah.
It's cool because I really do want freedom no matter what, even if I'm whatever, you know. But yeah, that's very helpful. What
I
you
can
just said.
testify to the what you said being true, that it absolutely does turn around afterwards. Whatever you lose through this process, you are given back and 100-fold more. You know, in terms of peace, love, and joy, but also utter absence of needing anything, not running out of anything. You know, from the tangible things, time, money, just more than enough, so you're not needing and worrying about things ever. You know, and an abundance of all good things. So,
Thank you.
lovely.
Thank you
Good to
so
meet
much.
you.
You
Lovely.
too.
Thanks. So last question. It's I'm sorry, I don't know your name. It just says iPhone. So
Hello.
hi.
I actually don't know which name it put because I don't know which name I put into the Zoom. My name's Reinhold,
Oh, lovely
which
to meet
is Austrian, and I'm calling from Vienna.
you. Oh, lovely.
And
Nice to meet you.
very nice to meet you. Thank you. The question I have, I experience it as controversial, and it's mainly the only question that comes up. I've been listening to your satsangs for maybe 3 months now. I'm a musician. I have no work now, and I knew that in October that I feel like there will not be work until September. So I realized, well, that's such a good opportunity to do nothing really. Well, nothing that I have to do.
Yeah.
So I really started. I started. I do nothing that I must do, apart from family, which is totally like it's easy. That's safe. So my question is, and it has a lot to do with myself, and I just want to say this period is like I'm a musician. I put out music, but I've been not interested for the past 10 years, like to put this me out, you know. I'm just not interested. So I don't appear. Yeah, there's little on the internet now. There used to be different times, but so I'm wondering, how do I want to appear, or how does this want to appear? And whenever I listen to your be with your teachings, they're crystal clear, cutting clear. Questions that I have are being answered before I ask them. Some of them are being answered before I even know that I had them. Like today, thank you very much. And also to the people who ask questions, because it's all together. Like the woman before, I mean, she asked something and I thought, okay. And suddenly I realized, wow, yeah.
It's
So
the power
my
of
question,
satsang, isn't it? That it's really just the one being, and it has all these questions it doesn't know it has, and then some other body mind will ask that question. Oh yeah, I wanted to know that too. And
yeah, and I mean, I experienced that right now because I've been listening to tons of online satsangs and whatever I could. And actually, YouTube, did you say algorithm? Is that the right word?
I think so. Yeah.
I think I have tamed it in a way because I always get what I need. Yeah. And I just don't ask the question because I feel embarrassed. So I ask the question. I'm really happy, like, to hear it the way I hear it, and I'm able to perceive what I hear, and that you are a woman. That I have had such a desire to hear the truth from the mouth of a woman. I don't go into that now, but that's one aspect that kind of I find really, really important. And the only question I have is, because I feel like what you do, the work you do, is so away from, how can I say, it's so authentic, and it's so away from what I know. I've been watching you. You sit here and you just talk. I mean, that's like crazy. I feel kind of nervous now. So my question
you're
is,
doing a great job. It's
huh?
it's not easy to speak in front of a lot of beings, is it? So
I've been wondering, should I turn that thing on or shouldn't I? But you know, Austria and Vienna, until now, apart from one friend, I have like a community with, like we meditate twice a week. We've been doing that for 25 years, but I have no community. So when I discovered this, it was like really like coming home.
wonderful.
And yet the question is, why do you name what you do like teacher? Why do you call those teachings? Why do you call yourself a teacher? And because for me, that is like, it introduces, my ordinary mind says that, yeah, it introduces some kind of hierarchy. You are the teacher, who knows, and then here are like we or the others who don't know, we're the students. And actually, I think the way I experience this is not what's happening. It's not the right name for this, what is happening here, because you are mirroring and you're facilitating. And I think this has so much to do with my own work, which I assume that and kind of hope that will happen in a way with these songs that I've been writing for a long time. I must say that I have such a love for English, and actually your Northern English accent.
Thank you.
It's just like music to me, really.
So it's, you know, teacher is just a word, isn't it? And it's just a label that's, you know, really, it doesn't really mean anything. It's just, you know, and the essential message behind anything I'm saying is always that there's really no difference between you and me. I'm just
you do that.
really certain that I don't know anything, you know. That's all. I've just really seen that this body mind vehicle has done it more deeply, seen it more deeply. That's the only difference. It's the same one being, isn't it? Learning, opening up, and I'm still learning all the time, still deepening. My mind and body is always deepening in the expression of this truth. There's no finish line in that way. It goes on for as long as the body's here in that way. So they're all students, and we're all teaching others, and we're all learning from life. You know, life is the greatest teacher of all, isn't it? It's sometimes when we need some guidance, the truth will take the shape of a human being to give us that guidance. Sometimes life will give us a lesson, a kick, hey, you're still believing this or something, you know. So it's just a label, really. It's not important. You know, it's just for ease of clarity, really. It's not an absolute thing. You know, I'm still a student as well, still learning, still seeing. So
I wasn't actually questioning you. I was really because this was really a hook where my ego and ordinary mind gets me and says, you cannot believe that, because if somebody calls themselves a teacher, you know, and a northern guru, you should stay away from a person like that. But then I listened to this and I am with it. And now that I'm actually really here, like live, it makes a huge difference. I wanted to experience that. And finally, it's all come together well, like family is, kids asleep and stuff, you know. So
it's always, my mind always finds a reason why we shouldn't, you know, it will always, whatever that is, right? But at the end of the day, we can only judge by, is this this stuff that I'm listening to, is it really helping in my life? Am I feeling gradually more peace, love and joy because of it? And if it's helping, great, you know. And if it's not, there's something else even better out there for you. YouTube will find it for you, as you said.
It's nothing better for me. Well, no, I'm really, I think you got my question, did you?
Yeah. It's we were always getting exactly what we need, and we always find whatever we need. And whether that comes from YouTube or life or something, we're going to learn whichever way. And the more ways we're open as well, it's going to happen faster and easier, isn't it? Yeah.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, so we will leave it there for this evening. Lovely. Thank you very much for joining me this evening. Namaste.
Namaste.